Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Smarketing CONNECT podcast. My name is Tom Libby. I'm your host here and one of the co-founders of Smarketing CONNECT. Today, I have one of our newest professionals on our platform, Brian. But I'm as always, I tend not to do a lot of the introductions. I love when our guests talk about themselves. So it's what we're here for, right? So Brian, so tell us in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate you having me. And I'm, excited to be part of the group. So I do a couple things in the marketing space. First, I own an agency called Posted Social, where we operate, traditional kind of paid advertising, Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, LinkedIn paid ads. We also do some B2B LinkedIn lead gen, email campaigns, et cetera. And then on the other side of the business, I work as a fractional CMO. So I kind of took what was learned through that agency life and applied it to clients that need more than just that inside the box thing that our agency Posted Social offers, and goes beyond into full blown marketing strategy with appropriate pillars to that marketing strategy.
Sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. It's manageable, but it's a lot.
So tell us, who do you typically like to work with? Is there a size company? Is there a demographic of personality? Like who are you typically attracted to when you work with what you consider your ideal clients?
Yeah. So our ideal clients, both for the agency and with the fractional CMO, are really kind of twofold. One is that startup that has, product centric founders that know how to sell their business, but they don't know how to market it. Right? They know what their product is. They need help growing their marketing side, and they're not the people to do it. Whether that's an e-commerce company, B2C, or whether that's a B2B, software or service-based business, we kind of jump in either of those. The other group we work with is that company that it's time to grow, right? It's time to scale. Maybe they got a couple bucks injected of capital from a private equity business. Maybe they just need to allocate some money towards their marketing, and they might not have the funds to go out and hire a full-blown, agency team that's going to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We can come in at a very cost-effective rate. On the CMO side, I can bring in vetted resources and save them the time, energy, and hassle of learning people don't do what they say they do the hard way, and kind of bring in groups that I know I have worked with before. So those are really the two groups, that startup or that growth stage. The $100 million business is not for us. That's not what our expertise is. We're small business guys.
Gotcha. I probably have about 18 other questions I would love to ask you based on that.
Sure.
But I know we're tight for time, so we'll go with the next one, which is so. I love asking our experts because we tend to be the front line, right, when it comes to like the new technology or the must-have small business tools and things like that. So do you have one that's a favorite? Like, do you have an absolute, every small business should have this particular tool in the form of like in marketing or whatnot? And tell us why you might think that.
Yeah, I think the go-to right now, and it's no secret, Canva. If you're doing any creative, you need to be, using Canva. It makes anybody a graphic designer. And unfortunately, it's also put a lot of graphic designers out of business or declining their business. And there's still a place for those. We still have plenty, of resources for that. But if you're a small business owner or just a growing business in general, you could probably accomplish 50-75% of what a graphic designer can do inside of Canva for, I think it's $12 a month. I don't know. Like that, yeah. And I mean, now our clients, we're sharing templates, we're seeing all these things. I mean, if you're in the marketing space, you start seeing those Canva templates posted around the internet and you go, oh, I've seen that one before, yeah, but right. It's good enough. It's great. You don't have to go out and pay thousands of dollars for, custom designs when you can do it yourself. It's drag and drop. So that's my, right now, my favorite tool for sure.
And not to give Canva an unnecessary plug, because to your point, they're blowing up right now. People are using them left and right, but not to give them an, but they do have a free version, which I think is also amazing, right? For a small business just getting started and you don't have a lot of resources, time and money is of the utmost importance. You can at least get started with Canva, even without that $12 a month, right? But I do suggest there's a lot more to it with the $12 a month. I do agree with that.
You're going to pay a designer 1,000 times that, exactly. So you might as well fork over the $12 and save a couple cups of coffee.
So let me ask you another question. And I know we talked a little bit about what you do, and which is great. But most times our professionals on with us here at Smarketing CONNECT, they usually will identify like one or two real problems that a client identifies and why you get engaged with them in the first place? Typically, we get like there'd be that one main thing, and then we branch out because we can all do a lot of other things. But what would you say is the most often reason that people call you?
Yeah. So I think the biggest reason we get calls is our current agency is not getting the ROI that we need on our Facebook and Instagram ads, right? I mean, I hear it 10 times a day. Anybody that owns a marketing agency knows you're never the first agency. You're always the person's third, fourth, fifth, eighth agency, because there's a lot of, noise out there and junk. But that's the area we get the most interest. And from there, we often realize that might not be where the client needs the most help. It's where they think they need the most help, and we kind of pull back some of the layers of the onion and figure out where they really need to, maybe it's not the paid side, maybe it's organic, maybe it's email, maybe it's LinkedIn. But it seems to be Facebook, Instagram, Google ads are the most popular thing. And now everybody wants to talk about TikTok. We haven't solved that problem yet. I haven't found, a partner that solved that problem yet, but it is coming up the pipeline for sure.
It definitely is, and it's a problem I refuse to solve. Just to let you know, I'm never.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you another. So let me ask you this question because it comes at it from a different angle, right? So let's pretend that you have a small business owner that you are not going to do business with for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. The reasoning is irrelevant. But you still feel compelled to give them advice when they're looking to hire their next agency or their next marketing professional. What kind of advice would you give somebody when they're trying to hire that? And you can even include sales if you want. Either a sales or marketing expert. They're going out to hire one, but you don't feel it's going to be you. What do you tell them? What is the first thing you say, or what advice would you give them to do so?
Yeah. I mean, first off, I would say ignore the case studies, ignore all the past experience, because everything's case by case, right? And, if they haven't sold an e-commerce product in your niche of shoes and footwear, it doesn't mean they're not going to be a good agency for you. The principles remain the same. The important thing that I want out of my agency is communication and transparency, right? So I think one major blemish on every agency across the board is the proactive communication. Clients say, hey, what's up with my campaign? And then you reply to that client and you give them feedback. You have to have an agency that's proactive about communication. Agencies that want to draw lines on, well, you can email me on Mondays and we can have a weekly phone call. That's not the right way to do it. So when you're evaluating an agency, evaluate them as someone you want to communicate with and you want to be around. Yes, they need to have a track record. They need to prove that they can do well, but that's a prerequisite. The biggest thing you need to feel out is someone going to be there when you need them on the other end of the phone? And are they going to reach out to me and say, hey, Tom, I just wanted to give you an update. The campaign's doing this, this, and this. That's a treat as a client, is to have your agency be proactive. So I would say when you're looking at an agency, talk to them about how they communicate with their clients. And if it's structured and regimented, you're probably a number 7 to them and you're not going to get treated the right way.
We might have a little bit of extra time here. So I'd like to ask a little bit of, what types of questions would you ask them to vet that out? Like, because just asking somebody, so how do you communicate? I wanted some transparency and I'd like you to be proactive. And I could just imagine somebody going, oh, we do all that. Don't worry about it. And then push come to shove. So can you think of a way to vet that out? How would you expect somebody to vet that out?
Sure. So, first thing is have that agency, the person you're talking to, explain, who am I going to be working with? Right? Because a lot of times an agency tells you, oh, we keep everything in house. We do this, this, and this. And then they're outsourcing it. And the person working on your campaign has never heard your name before. Yeah. Right. So ask them, what's the role of communication? Am I coming to you? Are you selling me and then handing me off to someone else? And that's my project manager. I think it's really important to have one voice as the agency to the client. I might not be running your Facebook campaigns physically, right, in the background, but I want to be the one that's communicating anything going on with that campaign to you. So when you're evaluating that agency, ask, who's my point of contact, right? What's the chain of command inside the agency as far as who's working on my campaign, and how is that communication happen internally? So if I need an answer, do I go to Tom and then Tom has to go to 12 people, or can Tom answer that question for me? So really just trying to understand how their inner workings go often leads you to a path of, because every agency thinks they're getting the questions of, tell me about the last client you worked with in my, no, I got that. We're past that part, right? How do you guys work? How do you communicate? How do you communicate with me? And when you put that on someone, if they can't clearly articulate it, oftentimes it means, you're going to be getting a lot of, I'll get back to you in 48-hour email responses when you need something now,
Yeah, I got you. All right. So this is probably my favorite question of the whole podcast here, Brian. And it's really just because it's silly. And I ask it just to try to make people understand and realize that although we are all professionals, we like to goof around a little bit. So this question is, Brian, I just want to know if you could be a superhero, who would it be and why?
Oh man. I'd probably go Superman, right? I mean, I know it's a layup, but if you can fly, I hate traffic. And like, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. And if I can just go from here to there and not have to worry about it, that's worth every, speeding bullet or whatever the heck his thing is, So yeah, I'd go Superman for sure. I work with a company who they license Marvel, and we just came out with an Iron Man toothbrush. And it's an awesome product. It's really cool. And they got a lot of other superheroes down the lane coming through. But yeah, that's kind of opened my eyes to the superhero world a little bit.
So I always tell people, I always pick, depending on if you're a DC or Marvel person, right?
Yeah.
So either Iron Man or Batman for me is because they're superheroes with no superpowers.
Right.
Right. Like they either use their brain or there's more involved to it than superhuman, whatever. But I like you said, Superman's a layup. Every guy on the planet wants to fly. So anyway, all right. So last piece of this podcast here. So this is our opportunity where we try to pay it forward to either another marketing or another sales professional that you've done business with that you would recommend highly to either to your clients or somebody looking for sales and marketing. Do you have somebody like that in your network that you just like to give a shout out to? Because we usually tag them in these posts and stuff like that, so that we, so they know that they had gotten some love from us.
Yeah, so that's a good one. A good friend of mine and referral partner and everything is a guy named Jason Kramer. He runs a company called Cultivize. Cultivize is a sharp spring partner where if you're doing any kind of marketing automation, he can help. So if you're sending people to your website and you're capturing lead forms and you're following up with email sequences, Jason comes in, perfects that for you, and helps both the sales and marketing side really come together in business. And his price point's awesome. His service is fantastic. I bring him in on almost every B2B project that I work on, and try to get him to be part of it. Just a good guy. He's not a Boston guy. He's out of New York, so we can't hold it against him. But he does great work. So Cultivize, Jason Kramer, tell him I sent you, and he'll buy me a beer.
Awesome. So that wraps up our podcast for now. I guarantee you I'm going to have Brian back on at some point. So keep an eye out for the next series or the next segment with Brian. But thank you very much for being with us today, Brian. And thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Tom.
And as always, keep selling.